Welcome to another episode of the STR Sisterhood. I'm your host, Stacy St. And as always, I am so grateful to spend some time with you today and just want to say thank you for inviting me into your day. Now, before we dive into this episode, I want to share a quote with you that I recently read that resonated with me. And it says, "You are the one that possesses the keys to your being. You carry the passport to your own happiness." Those incredible words come to us from philanthropist Diane von Furstenberg. Now, in this episode, we are sitting down with Carrie Drier, and we are unpacking her journey over the last 10 years of starting and growing her short-term rental empire and working through all the struggles within the past decade. We actually didn't talk about every struggle, but I tell you, Carrie has some wonderful truth bombs when it comes to how she has evolved as an entrepreneur in the last decade. And I can't wait for you to meet her. So without further ado, let's dive into my conversation with Carrie. So today we are here with Carrie Drier, and we are going to talk all about her growth and expansion of her short-term rental portfolio over the last decade. Carrie, I can't wait to chat with you. Thanks so much for being here.
Thanks for having me. You've been on my bucket list to be on your podcast for the last year. So I'm so excited to be here.
That is so awesome. Thank you. It's very cool to hear that I'm on somebody's bucket list. Very cool. Let me ask you, you've been in this game for about 10 years. Just talk to us a little bit first about what inspired you to dive into short-term rentals and how did you get started?
Yeah, actually, this is kind of funny because the story keeps evolving. The narrative that I normally tell is now going to have a little bit more detail because I was going through some old direct messages through Google with my husband about when we were first moving back to our hometown after I was pregnant. And we were looking at places and we were seeing how much people were getting for renting their place out because we were looking for somewhere to rent first before we bought. And we're like, wow, everyone's short-term renting these and they're making a lot of money. And it was really funny in the message. This was in 2014 before we even had a rental. He said, let's move up north and become, real estate investors. And I was at the time had no idea what that meant. And so it was really cute to look at that message now that we're 10 years in and we have 9 rentals in my hometown. So it was kind of fun to sort of look back on that. It wasn't ever my intention, but now that I'm like digging into this a little bit more, it's like, oh, I see these little strategic moves that we did to kind of get us where we were. Even when we were living downstate, we sold our house so that we could get downsize and have some money. And again, at the time, didn't know what this would blossom into, but was able to then be back in my hometown, have my son, and have some money to kind of play with. And so it really just started as that. I had been in the corporate world, mostly in marketing, and I wanted to be a stay-at-home mom, but realized that I also needed something else creative, but something that could be flexible. And so after we bought our primary house up here, we asked our real estate agent to sort of be on the lookout for an investment. And she actually quickly found a little 1-bedroom, 1-bath. So it was the perfect toe dip into the industry. And I got to design it and set up all the messaging. And I, at that time, used to meet all my guests and just really enjoyed that aspect. But then it allowed me to still be home with my son. At the time, he was 4 months old. So he's sort of grown with his business. So we really took on 1 rental a year. So he's just turned 10 in February. So it's been a really interesting journey. And now being able to be on podcasts like yours and be able to sort of tell our story has been fun because you just sort of get in this tunnel vision and just keep going forward. And you don't really think about what got you where you were and be able to kind of reminisce on those things. So it's been kind of fun to be able to tell our story and sort of dig into like, oh, okay, that's how we got where we are.
And isn't it amazing how, again, we can look back 5-10 years ago and think, oh, wow, I would have never dreamed that I would be here today with my 10-year ago self, right?
Oh,
And I
totally.
think so easy it is to look back and again see the growth, but it's very difficult for people to look forward and see the growth that's ahead of them, right? So maybe I'll tuck that question into my back pocket for future. My question to you is, when your husband said we should move up north and Traverse City is where you live, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So when he suggested that you move north and become real estate investors, what were you thinking at the time? Were you thinking you're crazy, honey, or there's no way, or what went through your mind?
I think I just didn't really know what that meant. I think looking back at that, I think there was probably sort of just like, sure, let's see where that takes us, kind of this fun aspect of it, which honestly is sort of what I've tried to keep that theme throughout our investing journey. My husband's kept his W-2 this whole time, which has really allowed us that security so that I can keep this fun. Because as you know, it's not all fun. It's very stressful. There's a lot going on, especially when you're trying to be a good host and you have really high expectations of yourself. Your guests have high expectations. So yeah, I think it was just kind of like this fun little dream, but not really understanding, because again, this was really before people really knew what that meant. And I remember talking to some business owners when we came back up and telling them that I had this Airbnb that we started, and they were like, "What is Airbnb?" Which sounds very crazy now. Everyone knows Airbnb is now Kleenex.
Yeah, exactly.
So I just don't think we knew what to expect. But also I think that I love that journey for me, because the only person I was competing with was myself. And so I got to be on this journey and do the things that I wanted and I loved, and set those expectations in our unit the way that I wanted, and not really have this like outside influence. So it's actually been a more harder transition for me the last couple of years to now sort of be online. I love the community, but then also being like, did I do the right thing? Did I invest in the right stuff? Did I, have the right journey? And really the answer is yes, but it does make you second guess yourself when you are inundated with all the data that people are running now for the Airbnbs and all of that. I really just went on my gut, and I would never want to change that. So now I'm hoping to continue to move forward with that aspect, but then also utilize these tools as well.
Sure. Well, I think it's so commendable, the fact that you've built a tremendous business and you were able to identify properties and the right investments for you based on your gut. And I always share with people, I'm a data girl. I love some good data. Okay. But you also have to blend that data with your gut, with your intuition. And so often people, I think, overlook the importance of checking in with themselves, checking in with their gut. I'm going to ask you a little bit deeper of a question about that. Talk to me about how your gut shows up for you. Like, how do you know, okay, I need to explore this, or no, my gut is telling me run the other direction.
Yeah.
How does that show up for you?
Yeah, I feel like this is a really good question, especially right now in my life, because I've been doing a lot of exploration. And again, a lot of it is because we have so much access to other people online. And so I've really tried to internally think about what that looks like and how do I keep that? Like, how do I stay inspired by other people, but be true to myself and do the things that I want to do? Because when you see other people, it can get really exciting to be like, well, I can do that. I want to do that. And it's like, well, do I really want to do that? Like, what does it look like for me? And so I've been doing a lot of reading, a lot of Martha Beck books, which just talks about, staying true to your integrity. And I do think that plays part of it. Like, if I am doing something and I end up having a lot of stress and anxiety, I really have to be like, this is not what I want. Like the things are not aligning for me. So I've been really trying to be more tuned in than ever to myself to say, like, what does my path look like? It's always looked different than everyone else. So I need to make sure that I stay in my lane, but also being able to show up to give back to others, to share with others, to get their input, to grow. But yeah, I think really just making sure that I'm feeling aligned with myself. And I think that I've really kind of got it dialed in where I can kind of tell, like, okay, I'm not sleeping well. I'm not, I'm having all these intrusive thoughts, or I'm, like down these other paths that's not healthy for me. And it's like, okay, let's recenter. And are you doing the things that you actually want to do? And that happened to me the last couple of years. I decided to take on a bunch of employees and try to grow this big property management company and get an office and start a cleaning company. And I was the most burnt out and the most disconnected with myself than I've ever been. And once I didn't want to let anyone down. And then I had to realize, no, this is your life and you need to be living it the way that you want to live it. And it's okay to pivot and change and let those things go. And you didn't fail. And it's interesting now. I'm finally at a point where I'm looking back at it enough to be like, okay, that happened and I got through it and it really showed me what I like and I don't like. And unfortunately, I have to go through the things the hard way. So now I've really realized, like, okay, no, those are not the balance that I want in my life. Like, I want to have a few people that can help me out. And I love having, some employees, but I need it to be where I still have family time, travel time to do things that I love, because I'm not going to be happy.
Yeah. Good for you. I am so, I guess, what's the right word? Like, proud of you, although we just met for the first time. It's like, well, not really the first time, but it's weird to say that because I didn't help you on your journey, but it's a prideful moment when you see someone else who's reflecting on her journey and being able to say, hey, wait a minute, this isn't what I want. And it's okay to shift and it's okay to pivot. And yes, someone else might look at this and go, oh, this is a failure, but it's not a failure because I learned something about myself from this situation, right? That takes a lot of courage to do that, number one. And it also takes a skill, right? That you have clearly built in yourself to be able to reflect like that and work through some of those painful moments. So kudos to you, girlfriend. That is awesome.
No, I appreciate it. And I think this is it's good to be able to talk through these things. And again, be able to reflect and say, okay, hopefully now I am at this spot where I can share these things. And then hopefully someone can hear that and be like, hey, I'm not maybe doing the things that I want to do. I may be doing things that I think I should be doing or that other people are doing in this industry. And I do think what helps when you keep focusing on what you want and shifting and kind of shedding things and exploring and then moving on is like you really are then crafting this life that people will be like, oh, I want to get there, but they haven't taken that time to be like, okay, well, I actually have to be uncomfortable for a while in order to get there, because it isn't fun. It's not a fun process to go through, but I do feel like now I'm excited for what's to come because I can be like, okay, I am being true to myself and I'm okay with, other people's judgment and other people's fear and anxiety about what's happening to me. I'm okay with that, knowing that like they're, dealing with their own things and it's my life, and we do. We only, that's so cheesy to say, but we only get one life. And part of the reason why I started this was so I could be with my family, be with my son. And I am very competitive and ambitious. So it's mixing that with really making sure that I'm there for my son. He's 10 and we only had, he's going to be in my life forever and hopefully we'll be best friends forever. But, at some point he's going to be a preteen. He's going to be a teenager.
Let me tell you, you got some stuff coming your way. When
you're
high school. Wow. My kids are on the other side of it now. So my oldest is 26, my youngest is 21, and they thankfully came out of like the high school funk where, my youngest, we used to tease, it was one grunt for yes, two grunts for no, because he was just, he couldn't get any words out of him.
Yeah.
So that might be headed your way in a few years.
Oh, I know. That's why it's like, I want, and I think a lot of times you think, oh, okay, well, I'm stuck here. And I've just really realized that like, I'm not. And that has what's taught me over the last couple of years is like, no, I'm not stuck in this decision that I've made, or we're not stuck in this way. We can always change things. We can always adjust. And even for a while I was traveling too much, and, my son was letting me know that. And it's like, oh, okay. It's that hard realization of I could have gotten really down on myself and been like, oh, I'm not showing up for him. And it's like, no, I just readjusted. And I was like, okay, how do I balance this better? How do I still go travel and get inspired and connect with people? Well, I'm, and in May, I'm going to bring my family to a work trip that I'm going on. So then that's even better.
There you go. I love that. It's interesting because, to your point, so often I think it's easy for people to take the example of your son saying, Mom, I want you home more, whatever specific phrase he said to you. It's very easy to have the mom guilt. It's very easy to get down on ourselves. And again, I just want to applaud you for being present enough to say, okay, here's a situation and I'm just going to pivot. And there's no judgment in that. There's no shame. There's no blame. There's no shoulda, woulda, coulda. It's just a pivot. And that's all.
Yeah.
Right. And
I think we all are, I know as entrepreneurs, most of us are, most that I'm friends with we're really hard on ourselves. We have a really high expectation. And so when things, it's like, it doesn't do us any good, but it is, again, that skill. And I'm still not perfect at it, but I'm trying to work towards that because I realize that like, there is no good in kind of dwelling on that and beating ourselves up. We've really got to just, pivot and move forward. And then things will feel better. But it is hard when you're going through it.
And I'm just going to lovingly say to you, you aren't trying to move forward. You are moving forward. Like there's no trying. You just are. I can see that. Right. Yeah. I often say to people that the word try, I believe should be removed from everyone's vocabulary because I feel like it is a dangerous word because it gives us an excuse for not actually stepping into the person or the human we want to be. Right. So
I like that try and also should.
Yeah, girl.
Do that as well. Cause that's very shameful word.
It's so true. It's so true. All right. I want to ask you about your growth over the last 10 years. So we've talked about some of your mindset shifts, some of your personal things that you've had to go through. Talk to us about your business. What systems or processes have been game changers for you as you've scaled your portfolio and still tried to maintain that personal touch with guests?
Yeah, I think that was definitely a struggle for me. I remember my husband, we actually listened to a Bigger Pockets episode. This was years ago, like probably at least 4 or 5 years ago, about automating your messaging. And he was begging me to do it. And I was like, it won't be the same. They won't know that it's me. And so I was manually sending out the door codes. And then as we grew, I started forgetting, messing them up, and realizing like, oh, I'm actually not providing the best support to my guests this way. And it's also causing me a lot of stress and anxiety. So that was the first shift of like, okay, let's let that happen. And once I did that, I had to admit, okay, you're right. I can still communicate to my guests. I can still add those extra, but at least they'll be able to get their information when they need it to alleviate their stress of travel. And then just starting to kind of slowly implement other things. Like I thought for a while, I was the only one that could do pricing. I know my market. I'm the only one that can get us max dollar. And we implemented PriceLabs. I think we started with one property because I wanted to sort of prove him wrong. And the other one killed it. PriceLabs killed it. Our revenue has just grown year after year. I think also part of that was I had this limiting belief too of how much we should charge for our property. We're a very seasonal town. We make our money in the summer mostly. The other seasons are, hopefully just scraping by. And I think I had some limiting beliefs of how much we should charge because I was, something that you're putting out there. You're like, well, is someone really going to pay that much? Are they going to see the value? So it's been really interesting to see, okay, no, we're supply and demand. And like, we still have units that are more reasonable, which I like. And then we have some that are more expensive. But if people have to understand, if they want to come to our place, maybe they might have to come in the off season or come in the winter, the shoulder season. Right. Yeah, I think that's been helpful to see. And so we're starting to kind of, okay, what other systems can we put in place in order to, take that off of my plate? Because even though you're good at something, like I was really good at pricing, but that did take a lot of time. I had to remember to, I need to make sure that I change the pricing for summer so that no one books at the lower price. And now with this software, we're able to, put those assurances in place. So it sets like kind of a higher percentage. It takes what you got last year and puts a percentage on it just to be safe. You can always adjust it later. So I think there's just been adjustments to be like, okay, how do I still show up for my guest, but then, put these automations in place so that I can have that balance and show up for my family and do these other things that I love. Mm-hmm. And really, it gives me a lot more time too to say, okay, how do I curate these spaces better for them? Like it leaves a lot more room to
creatively, right?
Yeah, yes. And that's what I love. Like I love working with other businesses in our community to create things for rentals. I have a meeting with someone that does some embroidery and I have these bags that I got. So being able to use someone locally to create some welcome gifts this summer. So like I need that creative piece in this business. Mm-hmm. So we're not all talking about broken toilets and fixtures and blinds.
That's the thing. It's a thing. It's a thing. Hey there, sisters. I am so excited to share a little love for today's episode sponsor, a tool I cannot imagine running my short-term rentals without. It's called StayFi. StayFi is a marketing powerhouse built just for vacation rental owners like us. It helps you collect data from every single guest who stays in your property, not just the one who made the booking. Here's how. StayFi lets you create a custom branded Wi-Fi splash page, kind of like what you see at your favorite coffee shop. Every guest enters their info to get online, which means you capture names, emails, and phone numbers from everybody who walks through your door. And the best part, with StayFi's built-in email and text tools, you can send beautiful, personalized messages in just seconds. That means more repeat guests, more direct bookings, and more control over your business. If you want to give it a try, and I highly recommend you do, head over to stayfi.com/STR Sisterhood and use the code Sisterhood to get 50% off your first 3 months. This is the kind of tool that helps you grow smarter, and you, my friend, deserve that. I want to also go back to what you just mentioned a few minutes ago about pricing and the limiting belief around how much you should charge. Oftentimes, I think we project how we shop for things. And for years, I was the same way. I'm not cheap. I will spend money on some things, but I'm also very frugal in other ways. But for years and years, I struggled with a scarcity mindset around money. And so when it would come to pricing anything that I was doing, it was challenging because it was the same exact scenario. Are people going to see the value? Are they going to judge me? Are they going to be willing to pay this? How did you break free from that limiting belief around how much you should charge?
I think part of it is putting a little bit of distance. So even when I don't think people should clean their own units. I'm a very big proponent of that. I think you have to almost create this little bit of distance of, I put this thing in the world. I spent so much time. I mean, pretty much every unit that we've put together, there's been multiple overnights to get it ready for picture day or for guests. And I think you almost have to, I don't know, and you'll have to tell me about this because I haven't written a book, and I know you just wrote a book. But you put all this time into it, and you have to sort of like let it go and like let it belong to other people. And so I feel that having that software helped me know that things were still getting done, but it made me sort of step back and have some distance from it. So I wasn't so overthinking and attached to it. Because I think that can, again, I know I am very big on mental health right now. And I think for our industry, that's really big, but I do think for our mental health, it's healthy to be like, okay, I know I'm providing good service and I'm putting this out there, but yeah, having that little bit of distance has really helped me be like, okay, I'm going to trust the process. This software is going off of what everyone else is charging. It's based off of this research. And then, so because I've cleaned my own units and I still do it when it's an emergency. But I remember one time, actually the unit I'm sitting in right now, I got it all ready. We renovated it, we furnished it. And then I don't remember what happened because this has been years now. I had to clean it. And I just remember I think I cried because I'm like, oh, and they were just using this space, but I just realized like, oh wait, I'm like too attached. So I need to like separate that out a little bit. Granted, I'm still in my units a lot and it helped me accept it more of like, okay, this is going to be their space for the 2 days they're here, the week they're here. Granted, there's those outliers of people, disrespecting your space, but they're going to live in it. And you wanted that. You wanted them to be like they're at home. They're comfortable. So yeah, let your cleaners do it. And then you can do the check after the cleaners have gone through their first sweep and little touches to it.
I think the advice of distancing yourself is so valid, because so often, I think especially women, because we inherently we're caregivers, right? We want the best. So we're working so diligently to provide the best product or service for other people. And what happens in that instance is we begin to view ourselves as our business and our business as our identity, right? And so I think it's so important in anything that we're doing that we are building a product, a service, a company, a business, whatever the case might be, but we are not the product, the service, the business, So I think that that's really, really good advice to create separation. For sure.
Yeah, it's really hard in our industry because we get reviewed after every single day. And in a lot of the reviews, it will mention, how responsive you were. And so it is a little bit hard. But if you go to any other business and you look on their Google, you're going to have good reviews. You're going to have bad reviews. Like people are going to have those preferences and like that's going to happen. And I do see it. And I'm hoping we're starting to change. But people are so concerned about that 5-star. And it's like, that's just not always going to happen. And especially, I know on VRBO, we're on multiple platforms. A lot of that clientele, they don't give 5 stars a lot. They're like, oh, well, it's just that generation where it's like, okay, 4 stars is where I cap out.
Excellent. I would totally stay here again. It was amazing. 4 stars. Yeah.
4 stars. So I think what I've also had to like realize that with that, it's like, okay, obviously when I messed up, I'm going to own that. But if you have your systems in place, you have your standards in place, sometimes people are just gonna, sometimes people are just not gonna like the mattress that everyone else likes. Sometimes things are gonna go wrong, and sometimes people are gonna react differently to that. Like sometimes people are very sensitive to some of those things, or there's been times where we've had someone check in, and I could tell she was so stressed out by travel and things that were going on with her child, and then she was stressed with the location because there was multiple steps, and so it's like just trying to be kind and understanding for that. And if they did leave a review, understand that there's so many other factors. But like you said, it's so hard to not take that personal. But I do think that's so important for us, especially as women, to really understand. Like, you are doing a good job. You're doing everything that you can do. And if you did everything you can do, you kind of just have to like let that go. And if you want to respond to the review, that's okay. But I think the consumers can read through that. I really do. And I think we don't remember that. I think we're thinking, no, they're going to see that and they're not going to book us. And it's like, no, they're going to be able to see all your other reviews. They're going to be able, because I know I do. When I go look at reviews, I'm like, oh, I can see where, I can see where that person probably broke the rules and they got upset.
Yeah, exactly. I want to ask you about your team, because you mentioned, obviously, you had scaled up and then you decided to scale back down. What I want to ask you about, though, is you mentioned also that you have very high expectations for yourself. You're competitive. I'm curious, how do you find team members that are aligned with the same level of excellence? And how has that hiring process been for you over the years?
I love this question. Yes, I think it's been difficult. Let's say that. But I have realized, and again, I think this is because, I don't know, and the men can correct us if we're wrong, but I think this is also a woman thing of, I want to make sure that everyone is happy. So, but then I do have high expectations, but I've had to realize that if I'm not honest with my cleaners, with my employees about the level or of expectation, or what I'm wanting from them, and I hold that back because I'm trying to protect them or I don't want to have conflict, it never ends up well anyway, because then I'm resentful, they're feeling upset, they don't know what to expect. So really for me, and I know cleaners is just a really big one for everyone, is I've just realized that, that saying where it's like hire fast, fire faster.
Hire slow, fire fast.
Yeah, hire slow. Sorry. Hire slow, fire fast.
Yeah.
But in our case, maybe it is still hire fast to hire faster because we need cleaners.
There you go.
Don't really go that slow. But yeah, so I've really realized that like I can, as long as I'm making sure that my expectations are really clearly laid out and I'm being honest about my feedback. And again, I love giving positive feedback. I love sharing guest reviews with my team. I love sharing anytime I walk into a place and I've been, happy about something, like the way the beds have been made, the way that, they did something or noticed those things. But also really giving them feedback. And if they don't take feedback well, I've just realized like that is not someone that can be on our team. So I've had to let people go over that. And I know it's hard, again, for other people to not take those things personal, but if they, if you're telling them, hey, you forgot to do this, can you do this next time? Or, hey, we want to make sure we're elevating this aspect. If they're being defensive or they're not responding to you or they're not listening to you, like it's not going to change and it's not going to get better. And you're going to continue down this path. So for me, it has been a learning curve on hiring people. And I think by letting go of the people that I know isn't going to work has been really helpful for me to find the people that do work. So I really actually have a really good team right now. And it's sort of back down to, I have a maintenance person, which is actually my brother. And he's also he just shares my level of my standards. So he walk into a place and see the same things that I would see, and then also be able to fix them, which has been amazing. So I think anyone that you have on your team that's checking the properties or that's maintaining the properties, they need to have both some skill, but also have that level of like really understanding what the guest would see, what the properties need. And then for the cleaners, we have a team that they basically take on all the properties. So they're very familiar with every property. They know how they're supposed to look. And they really understand like our standards. So granted, yes, things go wrong, but having that right team. And again, when we talked about following our gut and following our instincts and things like that, I've realized that like, okay, I'm sleeping well at night. So I have a good team, where there's been times where I'm like, not following that, where I'm like, oh, I should have let someone go, and I let them stay too long. And this is why I'm feeling frustrated and stressed out about it.
Yeah. And what you may not know is the rest of the team might be feeling that as well, because they're perhaps picking up a load of a team member who isn't performing, or having to go in and fix things that a team member isn't doing correctly. So I think it's really important to know how, when you should be letting someone go and you don't, how it's impacting you, but it also can be very toxic for the rest of the team.
Definitely. And I think also sometimes the other way happens where they're also feeling that they're not a good fit, but they don't want to tell you, or they feel bad. So it's like, sometimes there's been situations where I've had to let someone go and they were kind of relieved by it, to be honest. It's like, oh, this wasn't for me. And I do feel like our industry is not for everyone, especially when you have team members that have to kind of be available whenever. That is a whole special skill, to not know what your week's going to look like, or you kind of have an idea, but you could be working every day. It might not be 8 hours, but we just have properties that are rented, in the summer, they go up to like 4-night minimum, but in the off season, it's 2 nights. So if we get really busy, they could be turning properties over. They land on different days. So you have to be really flexible in this job. And it's challenging. But I think for the people that like it, it's great. It's a great fit. So you really have to make sure that you're really letting the person experience it before you kind of commit to having them stay on your team, so that they really understand what it means to work in the short-term rental industry. Yeah.
I'm bringing on someone in my team right now who absolutely loves cleaning, is OCD. She's just like, I'm just so excited to clean, but she's never been a short-term rental cleaner before. And I think that has some really exciting opportunities, because we can train her in exactly the way that we do things. And at the same time, to your very point, she might get in for a couple weeks and go, wow, this is for the birds. I can't stand this, right? And so sometimes we are taking a bit of a risk when we are bringing on folks who are new. And at the same time, that can be a really wonderful team member down the line, because you can mold them and shape them and develop them as an employee. So,
yeah. And who knew that being a short-term rental owner meant you had to be so many things? I know that that's like kind of the entrepreneur way, but it's like, wow, okay, I'm also now a manager. And it's a lot.
Yes. And so many times I think people, again, they get into this industry, they buy a property, and they're looking at themselves as, I have a rental property, like I'm a rental property owner or host, or I'm an Airbnb host. No, we are a leader of a business, right? Whether you have one property, 100 properties, or anything in between, we are operating businesses. And when we make that mindset shift that we have to be the leader of a business, things tend to actually get executed very differently.
Oh, totally. Yeah. And making sure that what we're trying to do this year is, we're not currently investing, but we're investing in our current properties. and investing in some marketing and things like that, but sticking to a budget. That's always a hard thing for me. But when you do make that mind shift of like, hey, yes, this is fun. This is something that you've loved to do. But also, I just started paying myself this year. I would just take the money and reinvest, or we would save it or whatever. And so now I'm actually, paying myself a salary, which is really awesome. But that means we have to stick to budgets, which has been hard for me because, again, I like to do what I want to do. If I wanted to put something in the unit, I want to put something in the unit. So that's something that we're implementing. And I've just really never had to do. Yes, we've had, loose budgets, but we really want to stick like, okay, if we're going to say we have a marketing budget, this is what we're going to stick to. And these are the things that we can commit to. Anything beyond that has to wait. Yeah. Which is hard for me, but it's been really nice to actually, see that and be like, okay, I am getting paid for it. Hopefully we can continue to increase that. And then someday my husband can leave his job. But if you don't leave that, if you don't dedicate that money to paying yourself and leave that space, then you never will be able to get there. Notice.
This is one of the biggest mistakes I feel like people in our industry make is they create another job for themselves and then they work for free. And I always encourage people from the get-go, build in a line item, even if you have a co-host fee where it's not a set salary, it's a percentage on your revenue. But you as the host have skin in the game and you actually are rewarded for your great work. The other thing that I think that does is if your business needs new tools or new software, or you might need new things for your properties, it also, again, creates that separation. So you don't feel like, ooh, if I buy that new tool, I'm not going to be able to feed my family this week, right? There's got to be separation between you, your pay, and the business and profitability. Like it's cohesive, but you should not work for free.
And I think that, again, we keep going back to the theme, but this is a podcast for women, so we're going to go there. But I do feel like that's another hard thing that I've had to struggle with. It's like obviously we're striving to be successful, but then you're like, oh, but I don't want to be successful because then that feels weird. It feels weird that I'm making money or that, I struggle with that. I know a lot of my friends struggle with that, but it's like, that is the ultimate goal, right? And so, I feel like that is kind of this transition that I've had to make of like, no, I want to make sure that I'm paying myself, that I'm not feeling resentful for working for free. And I can also still enjoy what I do and also make money. I think that those things can exist. And I think,
oh my gosh,
that is such a hard thing. I was reading something recently where it's like, people think that things have to be hard in order to get paid, or they have to be, they can't be doing something creative or doing something that they enjoy and making money off of it. Like it's this conflicting thing inside of them. And I do feel like that has been me for a while. And I'm trying to be like, no, and also for me, not only does that buy more freedom for my family, but also eventually I want to get to a place where I can, give back more or do some of those things. So there is still that greater purpose for it. But I do think that, again, those mind shift changes, especially in women, about you can make money. It's fine.
Amen, sister. I always share with people, and I talk about it in my book as well, but I think there's no greater joy than being able to put something forth in the world that's helpful for people, that you're passionate about, that you love, and that brings you a paycheck, right? That is living big. That's the ultimate live big move, is when you are able to have a business that integrates with your life, where you're not experiencing burnout, you're experiencing pure joy, and it brings you the financial freedom that you're seeking from your business. So anyway, I could talk about that stuff all day long, girlfriend.
I think it's important that we are talking about this, though, because I do feel like that I think that's still something that the people struggle with. So I think the more we can talk about it, hopefully the more other people feel comfortable talking about it.
Yep. Yep. So good. I feel like I could sit here and talk to you for 3 hours, and I know you don't have 3 hours. I want to move to the lightning round. Okay. So what I'm going to ask you are a few fun questions, and I'll just ask you to answer with the first thing that comes to mind. First question is, where is your favorite place to vacation?
Ooh, I definitely love somewhere on a beach, but also would go back to London in a heartbeat.
London, I absolutely loved. I was so enthralled with the architecture there. It was amazing. Absolutely.
And I love how you can get places quickly too. We didn't have enough time this last time we went, but you could like jump on a train to Paris or so I just feel like I would love, that would be a goal to like vacation there for a longer period of time, like months.
Yeah. You're going to be eating all the fish and chips in the world. I love some fish and chips in London. So good. All right. What's one place you've never been that you want to visit?
Okay. And this is a silly one because I travel a lot. And as a kid, I wanted to go to Maine, and I've never been to Maine, and it's on my list. And I just was talking to some friends recently, and they want to even invest in Maine because they love it so much. And I'm like, I need to get there. I have not made it there. So I need to get that on my bucket list for next year.
Maine it is. I think that is the first time anyone's ever given me that answer.
Interesting.
So that's very impressive. Very impressive. All right. What's one thing you know now that you wished you knew when you were starting out in short-term rentals?
To enjoy where you are in any sort of process, even the stressful parts, because you'll miss it and you don't want to just keep moving on to the next thing.
It's so important. Find the gratitude, find the joy. There's a silver lining in everything. Sometimes it's harder to see that silver lining, especially in the midst of the struggle, but it's often revealed to us only when we're looking for it. And if we're not looking for it, it never appears. So good. All right. Next question. What's the best piece of advice you've ever been given?
I think I might have said this before, but my mom always used to say, don't put your head in the sand. And she actually got me this little ostrich, because I guess ostriches put their head in the sand. And I do feel like that is something that I try to remind myself a lot, especially when we're talking about like hiring and firing people and like having to do the right thing that we know is the right thing for us. And it is so easy to just sort of ignore what you're supposed to do, or, ignore that topic or that feeling. So for me, I think that just is like a very good advice that you can pull from any time. And then the other one that I love is just my husband will, when we want to do something new, he'll say, for why? And I just think that's such a funny one because it kind of lightens the mood a little bit and reminds me, because I do love new ideas and I get inspired a lot. It reminds me to be like, okay, why would we take this on? Like, what are we going to give up for that? That's like a little funny one to like it. Instead of trying to crush someone's dream, it's like, okay, yeah, maybe it brings you back to reality.
So good. All right. Last question. What's one thing and or person that you're grateful for today?
I would say definitely my husband. I feel like he has been able to be there through all of those times, the good and the challenging. And like I said, the last couple of years were really challenging. And there was things that, I did to myself where I'm like, okay, I created these things. And he just was really patient and was able to, be there for me. And I do feel like, again, that's what we really wanted, was to be able to create something together and be able to be together and spend time together. We love being able to work on this stuff as a team. And so, yeah, I do feel really grateful for that. And I would not be able to be where I am today, both in our business and personally without him. So yeah, I think partners are one of the most important things that you can find, and making sure that you're being very picky on that.
That's another piece of good advice from Carrie.
Yeah, full of it today.
Carrie, if folks want to learn more about you, what is the best place for them to find you online?
Yeah, so I'm most active on Instagram, Roost North Rentals, ROOST North Rentals is our Instagram handle. I also have a Carrie.Drier Instagram handle that I share more kind of behind the scenes, a lot more of this stuff where I talk about, my mental health as a business owner, how to stay healthy. And then we also have a website, roostnorth.com, where all of our rentals are on there. So we have 9 rentals in the Northern Michigan area. And so everything is on our website. You can go check them out.
Love it. Carrie, thank you so much for being here. What a wonderful conversation. And I know so many people are going to get so much value out of this. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay, sister, before you go, let me ask you this. Are you craving more clarity, more confidence, and the kind of momentum that makes big dreams feel totally doable? If you're nodding yes, my best-selling book, Live Big, was written just for you. Inside it, you'll discover powerful mindset shifts and business strategies that help you unlock your potential and create a life you're wildly obsessed with. This isn't fluff. It's a playbook to help you rise, realign, and reignite the fire inside you. Head over to livebigwithstacy.com to grab your copy of Live Big and take the next bold step toward the life and business you truly desire.